What is poppin', y'all? It is your boy, it is RE3, and welcome to this week's episode of On the Ball Podcast. I'm here with Mr. Dylan. Dylan, how you doing, sir?
I'm doing pretty good, pretty good. Got our first, week of the NFL done. The first actual week of NFL done. We had our Monday night game yesterday, and then, week two of college football was done and over with as well too. We're kind of in that full swing of things now. Everything started up and going. Everyone's got to see their favorite team play. You know, and now it's just time to see what's going to happen for the rest of the season. Some ups for some teams, some downs for some teams, but I'm excited to see where it's going to lead us.
Yeah, I'll say it'll be interesting to see what happens with college football too. We saw Colorado get a lot of hype again just to get absolutely dismantled by Nebraska. Their offensive line still can't block anything, so.
No.
But you know what? Why don't we start off with talking? We'll talk the NFL today. And Dylan, why don't you get us started? Why don't you talk about your Seahawks? How do you think they looked?
It was an interesting game from the start. We started off really slow, getting sacked and throwing a pick your first drive of your first season isn't really anything that's super good. I mean, Seattle's kind of pride on this offseason, being a rushing dominant team, and it didn't seem like we really kind of kick-started our offense until we started running the ball a little bit more. Kenneth Walker was rushing a little bit better. Just overall, just creating gaps. Gino, he had a big rush as well himself. And I mean, I liked what I saw from the offense in the second half, but the defense looked strong. Made a rookie Bo Nix struggle, so you got to take that a little bit in stride, especially when it's his first NFL game. But overall, the defense looks strong, getting 2 interceptions, a couple of sacks. I mean, that's what you expected when Mike Macdonald went there. It was going to be a defensive minded team. Held the team to only 231 total yards, which I find is pretty impressive. But like I said, first game for a whole new Denver offense, whole new Denver team, basically outside of Cortland Sutton. It feels like. But overall, I mean, the team did good. I mean, I enjoyed what I saw. We have Patriots next week. It's gonna really kind of test where our offense is at, especially since we saw what they did to Cincinnati. But I'm excited to see what our defense does. It looks like it's gonna be. I don't want to say the best in the league. You can jinx it. I'd always hate to jinx it, but it does look like it's going to be a pretty nice defense, at least a top five. I hope so.
I could absolutely see it. I didn't understand Sean Payton and his coaching. I don't understand throwing the ball 42 times in the first game with Bo Nix.
Mm-mm.
I thought more balance would have helped him out a ton. I thought he was going to throw the ball maybe kind of like what Gino did, like maybe 25 times, like in that range. And I even think that might have been a little bit of a high end. But to come out swinging like he did, and the saddest part is 42 pass attempts for 138 yards. That is just overall, it was not a good look for the Broncos to start. And honestly, I put that on Sean Payton more than anything. He didn't look like he had Bo Nix ready to go, and I think he just concocted this game plan where he put too much on him right away, and he just struggled with it.
I do like what Bo Nix did say though in his post interview. It's like we did have a shot, Me and Smile basically kind of give the dude a little bit of a break because he did have a chance to do it. It's a little bit impressive, but throw 2 interceptions, not perfect, especially since one of them was kind of a gimme as well too. Didn't look great, but overall, I mean, he's playing like I hope I said one of the hardest defensive fronts in the league, one of the hardest defensive teams in the league. So I'm gonna take it in stride. I still think, will he probably be better than some of these other rookie quarterbacks? Maybe, but at least it shows that Sean Payton has a little bit of trust in him, letting him throw 42 times. As much as it was a dumb play call, he's just letting the kid go. I think maybe even in Sean Payton's mind, he's not set on this season, and he's just like, let this kid develop, and we'll come back at it.
Yeah, he looked better than quite a few of the rookies still. I was not impressed with Caleb Williams at all. We finally saw Caleb Williams start for the first time. He screwed your parlay. I'm sorry to hear that, Pat. Thank you for tuning in. It's like Caleb Williams. I definitely wanted to mention him. Holy cow. he looked rough. And I'm not going to sit here and crap on him too much because at the end of the day, it is a rookie making his first start. But, man, 92 passing yards. I think he had like 29 throws too. Like, was not a great first start. And quite frankly, if Will Levis didn't crap the bed, that Bears team should absolutely be 0-1. But good teams find a way to win, and that defense and special teams pulled it out for them. So,
yeah, I mean, you just got to think, what if Chicago kind of put that around Justin Fields, good defense to give his quarterback opportunities to stay into games rather than, just not putting anything around him. I mean, yeah, Caleb Williams was not great this game whatsoever. Even their rushing wasn't really great. DeAndre Swift wasn't really anything too impressive to me. I mean, and then they have Velus Jones, Travis Homer, Khalil Herbert. I mean, that's not really a great core. The offense just kind of looked like it was stale. I mean, even receiving wise, no one really had more than what it's like 5 receptions, I think. I think DJ Moore had the most, and even at that, it was for 36 yards. So, I mean, it just did not seem like the offense was clicking. On the defensive side of the ball, a whole different story. The defense was playing out of their minds. TJ Edwards was playing crazy, had 15 tackles in the game, which I find absurd. You had Jalen Johnson, who had that pick, and you had Tyreek Stevenson, who also had that really big pick to kind of seal the game for him. But overall, yeah, man, the Titans, looked good. I feel like better than the Bears. It was just some dumb mistakes and a pick six kind of ruined the game for them. Really, the Titans kind of lost the game themselves. They had it won, so Bears definitely need to get it kicked up in gear. But man, their defense is looking pretty decent, so you got to take that with some stride.
What's up, Kyle? Yeah, no, absolutely. The defense looked legit. And I think their offense, well, it can really only go up from here. At the end of the day, their line was under pressure. I think big part of the issue, too, was just Caleb Williams just never looked comfortable at all out there. And I think that was just all the credit in the world to Simons and crew up front. They just made him so uncomfortable and just forced him to always be on the run or just make him think that there was always going to be a pass rush on his lap, and he just rushed everything. So I absolutely love what I saw from the Titans outside of the, Will Levis and just offensive disaster class. I think that team could very well win I think they'll be in the running for their division. I think it'll be a tight race. As long as Will Levis just kind of cleans it up, which he will. I have no doubt he will. At least I don't think he'll throw any more like stinkers like he did on that last pick six.
Did you see his reaction mid-play?
Yeah.
Him like just jumping mid-air. That was so funny. It's a fair reaction, though. That's probably how I would react to if I just threw a pick six.
I think they could steal a wild card too, honestly. I think that team's talented enough they could possibly even win a wild card game. I think it just all comes back down to the quarterback. It all comes down to Levis. Because he's already shown that he can lose them a game.
It's just tough in that division because we saw even how well you have the Texans there. You saw how well the Colts played against the Texans specifically, and then you saw how Jacksonville played against Miami as well too, which are all potential wildcard teams.
I love watching Anthony Richardson. That man is the definition of a boomer bust quarterback. He's either getting the big play or absolutely nothing. That man cannot throw in the intermediate to short game worth of shit. But yet he can fall over almost and just like completely balance, just nonchalantly fire a 60-yard strike down the field over two defenders.
And it works.
Yeah.
And he can rush for 20 yards on you as well.
He's going to be dangerous if he can figure out like the intermediate routes. If he can never figure out the short to intermediate routes, there's definitely a ceiling. But this is also the youngest quarterback in the league, I believe, youngest starting quarterback in the league. I think.
Fair.
He's young and he's got plenty of time. He's already got like the difficult deep throws down, so I hope he can scale it in because he's a lot of fun to watch. And They were
Mhm.
right there and beating the Texans. The Texans are a tough team. Yeah, I'd say I'm trying to avoid talking about them, but I know I can't, so I guess I might as well. Friday night football, Green Bay versus the Eagles. I'm a Packers fan. And the funny part is, I'm not actually mad at the outcome of this game. There's no shame in losing to the Eagles. There really isn't. They're arguably one of the best teams in the NFC. I think they're probably number 2 or right behind the 49ers and Lions. 49ers, Lions, and Eagles to me are in that tier of top NFC teams. So really is no shame losing to them. But I'm just gonna say it. I don't care. I hope we never go to Brazil again. That was absolutely terrible.
Mhm.
The field was not maintained at all. Everybody was sliding all over the damn place. They couldn't find a freaking hotel that's closer than an hour and a half away for the Packers. They traveled almost 2 hours from our freaking hotel. It's a miracle that not more people got hurt. If you're going to host an NFL team or some big event, you should have the proper accommodations. And they didn't have a great field. Their hotel was just awfully far away. To me, it was just an absolute embarrassment. That's all it was. This was just an obvious cash grab, and it was freaking pathetic. At the end of the day,
Agreed.
it's nothing
No, I was just gonna say oh, we keep messing up. I was just gonna say, definitely, I agree. If you're gonna spend all this money and have the NFL, use a lot of probably their own money, showing off this game, different things like that as like a big attraction to like, why should we bring the NFL globally? It's like this is your opportunity to show that reason. Why should the NFL come to Brazil? And it was not good. It was not good by any means, especially on the field aspect. It was like out of everything you should have, that should be one of the biggest ones. And like, yes, I get they used a soccer field, whatever the case is, but that does not matter. One of the first end all be all things you should do is if you're finding out you're hosting an NFL game is fixing the field. And it was just horrendous. People were sliding, having to change cleats. Like everyone had to change cleats basically because they just needed to find something that had the right fit because they wouldn't be slipping and sliding and, basically falling everywhere. I mean, our first play was literally Saquon like falling to the ground is what it felt like. And so it was very, very upsetting.
yeah, no, absolutely. And with Gary, or sorry, Pat, I saw Rashawn Gary's name. I think I agree. Both defenses did look mid, but I also think that the field had a big part to play in that. Both pass rushes just did not really get home at all, and just defenders could not find good footing and just slid around and missed tackles. Listen, I know Jaden Reed had that really nice stop move, but there's no reason Chauncey Gardner-Johnson should have slid out of bounds damn near just off a missed tackle. I think both defenses were mid, but I also think it's almost impossible to gauge just how good both defenses were. Just, judging off that first game, just with how poor everything was executed.
Agreed. You have to give it on like just a proper stadium area. Give it next week, And give it a couple weeks, of course, but give it the next 2 weeks, and then you can see like proper results rather than people kind of makeshift trying to do something and kind of playing like a little more hesitant, like strafing a bit more because they didn't want to slide out of bounds.
Yeah. Oh, before we go any further, did you hear the big news?
What's the big news?
Dude, there's going to be a Lamar in the Super Bowl and then Jackson. We have Lamar performing at the Super Bowl.
Now, yep.
I wanted to ask you, Dylan, because there seems to be some controversy on Twitter about that. Because everybody's like, well, it should be Lil Wayne. He's from the area. So I guess my question to you is, what do you think about Kendrick Lamar performing the Super Bowl halftime show?
Me personally, I mean, as just a music fan, I like it. I'm a big fan of Kendrick Lamar in real life, but overall, I mean, I don't mind it. Like, yes, you would like to have more people do it, but like, who knows? It's not Lil Wayne hasn't came out and said anything along the lines of like, oh, like they didn't offer it to me or whatever. Maybe he was offered, maybe he declined. I don't know any of that information. Maybe he just didn't want to do it. Having to create a whole set, a whole halftime, a whole Super Bowl performance is kind of a big thing. Um, or maybe just not might be the way he goes. Maybe he wants to just sit and enjoy the Super Bowl, especially if it's just going to be in New Orleans, not have to work it. Those could just be all be factors that play into it. But I mean, when it comes to like Kendrick Lamar being it, I mean, when it comes to probably artists right now, especially given his last year, just overall, he's probably one of the bigger artists, probably one of the better options you could pick. Everyone is going to want the hometown person to be it, but I mean, if it's not going to be him, I mean, you still had one of the best options you could probably pick. So.
No, I absolutely agree, and Pat says it really well here. It appeals to more than just Louisiana, so I'm with it. Right now, Kendrick
Agreed.
was one of the biggest names, if not the biggest name in hip hop right now. He's right up there with all the other giants right now. He's on a great hot streak, and I think he's actually like the perfect guest. And plus, people are complaining about, you know, the halftime show not being from the area. When have they really done that for the Super Bowl? Like, you can point to Dre and them for California, but they don't really pick out acts based on where they're from. Like, Pitbull was in, when it was down in Miami, but that was J Lo, and she brought Pitbull on as a guest. So maybe Kendrick does bring on Lil Wayne, but I think people are just failing to forget that. Guess what? They don't pick the halftime show based on where you're from. They pick it on who's going to draw the most eyes, and quite frankly, Kendrick playing Not Like Us at the Super Bowl halftime show will absolutely draw the most eyes right now.
Yeah, that's gonna be funny. Drake's gonna be seething. Drake's gonna do his big Super Bowl bet and not skip the halftime show. It's gonna be like, you know, 5 million on the Chiefs, and then the Chiefs are gonna lose, and then he's gonna get made fun of at the halftime show.
Dude, I saw him. I saw him. I love the shot that he took at Drake too in the thing because Drake was
Yeah,
playing for round two, and Kendrick, there ain't gonna be no round two in his promo. That was absolutely fantastic.
yeah. He said there's no round twos when you go for a championship.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a business over everything. Don't care about the hometown hero. Yeah, no, that's fair.
Like that would sell a lot more in the hometown, but it's gonna appeal more to people in the hometown. But you tell people that Kendrick Lamar's playing the halftime show, people up in New York and around those areas are gonna tune in more so than if it was Lil Wayne.
Right. No, absolutely. Let's say another game I definitely wanted to talk about, and just part of me just kind of wants to pick on this team a little bit, but they 100% deserve it. Deshaun Watson looked awful again. He showed up he played last year. He didn't look good. He didn't finish out the season. He comes back game one. Everybody's wondering what he looks like. And it wasn't good. It was not good at all. The Cowboys rolled the Browns. And I felt bad for that defense. I really did. That Browns defense I still think is elite. But when your offense is Deshaun Watson throwing checkdowns the entire game and you can't get anything going, they were just stuck on the field forever. So, what do you think?
No, basically agreed. Deshaun Watson looked horrible. 1 for 2. He had touchdown, 2 interceptions. Bad. I'm barely through, 50% completion percentage. It just did not look good at all. He rushed the ball decent. Whatever. I mean, who cares? But he just did not look good. Just miscalculated, miscombobulated. He was sacked 6 times as well too, so that doesn't make your day any easier. But overall, he just has not gave Browns fans confidence or anything like that. Like I think they're to the point where like, man, Jameis Winston's on the roster. At least we have hope with Winston. Like crap, he might throw 20 picks a game, but man, he's gonna throw me 30 touchdowns a game. And when you got receivers like Jerry Jeudy, Amari, like you have receivers like Jerry Jeudy, Elijah Moore, everything like that. It's just kind of it's a little upsetting. A little upsetting. Amari Cooper,
The
great
Browns.
players like Jerome Ford, David Njoku.
The Browns need Jameis and Bencham. It saves space for the public. It's better for a team morale. Win-win. Yeah. I think the biggest. It's a fine solution for this season. But what do you do about it next season and the year after that? I think they've just backed themselves into a conundrum where, like, you have a Jameis sitting on your roster this year, but next year that cap hit goes way up. And let's be real, are you going to pay him $72 million just to ride your bench? I don't even think ownership would let him bench him next year because that's just a whole heck of a lot of money to be paying someone to ride the vine.
Yeah, it's like you kind of have to play him and just hope he works.
That's the corner they backed themselves into, and it's all guaranteed. So it's not like you can cut him after next year. No, you're paying him $72 million next year, or you can absolutely just screw yourself and restructure his deal and just pay it all in the last year, which sounds even worse. So,
dude, the Browns are never giving a quarterback a contract again, like a big contract. They're never repaying a quarterback. They're just gonna stick to the draft, and they weren't good at that, but they don't care, man.
Dude,
it's better than this.
You could have gotten like Deshaun Watson, and it would have been fine. But why did you have to fully guarantee the damn contract? I don't get.
Yeah.
Like if you signed him to a $220 million extension or whatever it's worth, but only like 125 guaranteed over the first 2 years, and you could cut him at some point. Okay, you're taking a chance on what he was in Houston after 2 years doesn't work out, cut him. But the fully guarantee the contract just for all 4 years and the entire price point, that's just awful. That was just terrible by Cleveland. And when it comes to the Browns, I don't feel bad for him. And it's a conundrum, right? Because I'm sure we all heard that Watson now has 2 more cases against him. I don't think Deshaun Watson should earn another NFL paycheck. I don't think he deserves any of that money. But at the same time, I don't think the Browns deserve to be just that easily relieved of paying the man because they kind of screwed themselves in this whole situation. So
I mean, they did make that out in their contract with Deshaun Watson, though. That was like if more of the civil stuff comes up and he were to like get on the NFL exempt list, which the NFL's not doing, by the way. They've already came out and said they're not putting him on the commissioner's exempt list. But if something like that were to happen, they had outs in the contract basically that was like it would be cleared or something like that.
I love the NFL for not putting him on the exempt list.
Yeah, I know. They were like, sorry, dude, we're just gonna ruin your team. Like you're gonna either have to play this weirdo and pay him, or do something else about him.
You can cut him for next year for a whopping dead cap of $144 million.
Gosh, you can't even build half a roster.
No,
no. You have to keep him. They have to hope. Like, not saying that you would ever want that, but they just need to find a way, a hope or a prayer to get out of that contract. Because man, if he does not turn it on, and of course barring his other case stuff as well too, man, it's just bad. Like you shouldn't even like throw the ball. You shouldn't even use a quarterback. Just run Jerome Ford, and when Nick Chubb is healthy, just run pure wildcat formation and then just call it a day.
Yeah, like I said, I agree, Jory. I don't feel bad for the Browns. I don't want Watson. I don't think Watson deserves another penny to get paid an NFL contract. But I also feel like it would be too easy just to relieve the Browns of their sins pretty much. So,
you know who I feel bad for? Nick Chubb.
Yeah.
Why does that man have to be? Why does that man, who's just a hard worker, a good running back, one of the best running backs in the league, get a crappy injury like he did last year and have to play with a team like the Browns where he just kind of has to deal with it?
Yeah, and that's the tough part. Like, even if let's say you bench him and you might have a chance, do you just sign like a new quarterback on the vet minimum for the next 2 years, or do you try to draft somebody? Because I know Jameis is under contract for this year. But then you run into the same situation next year and the year after that. Finally, like 2027 or 2026-7 season, you can finally get out of this. But I could see them after a while just running with Jameis this year. But I'm curious to see how they handle this whole situation if he doesn't get any better next year and the year after, because the Browns are legit. They have legit defense. Like Joe Flacco is able to take them to the playoffs.
Yeah, dude.
It's
Like,
not
I think people need to put that into perspective. Joe Flacco was able to take this team to the playoffs. And it's like, just imagine what a mid-level quarterback would be able to do to this roster. Throw Sam Darnold on the Browns. Like, man, how he played against the Giants. You get that version of Sam Darnold, like that team's going what, 9-8, 10-7.
right. You get a quarterback even like Kirk Cousins.
Kirk Cousins taking that team to an AFC championship.
I'll say that team's making a nice run, but yeah, it's just I feel bad for the other guys on the roster at the end of the day. You said Nick Chubb, even the other guys like Jerome Ford, and there's just a handful of other guys who they want to just show up.
Amari Cooper. Cooper, dude. I feel so bad for Amari Cooper. That man can't catch any break.
Yeah, first he gets drafted to the Raiders. That's punishment in itself, and now he's stuck with this. So, yeah. But another great quarterback play I wanted to talk about. What's poppin', Mo? Bills and Cardinals. That was
fun game.
Fun game, back and forth. But I just want to say, Tyler, you have to be able to see Marvin Harrison on that last play.
Mm-hmm.
He was so wide open that there was nobody on. You couldn't get a Bills defender on the screen, and he had the ball for 6 seconds. Like he had time to, see him, and it looks like he looked that way. He just somehow missed him. So the Cardinals seem like a fun team, and they could be a lot of fun. It'll be interesting to see how the rest of the season pulls out, though, because they can't be allowing 34 points every week.
No, and that's kind of the thing you got with the Cardinals going into the season. It's like, man, they're gonna have a crazy fun offense. Like, I'm sorry, I'm a big fan of James Conner. I'm a big fan of James Conner when he was in Pittsburgh, him being on Arizona now. Like, he was just getting the rock for him. He played good. He played really good for him, in my opinion. But it's like you kind of got that feel that this offense was going to be fun. James Conner, Greg Dortch is a good player. Amari DiMercato played decent last year. Michael Wilson, Trey McBride, throwing in Marvin Harrison. Trey Benson was supposed to have a pretty good season. And then you get Kyler Murray back. And it's like, who honestly played like one of the better quarterbacks in the second half of the season coming back from injury. So throwing all that talent on the team, it's like, man, this offense could be good. But when you look at the defense, on the other hand, it's a whole different story. It's a whole different story. I mean, who's the most notable name on their defense? Budda Baker, and that's it. I mean, Zaven Collins is there, and only reason I know that is because when I worked for Rent-A-Center, I installed a washer in his aunt's house, and so that was pretty cool. But other than that, I mean, it's just like he didn't even get his option accepted. Sean Murphy Bunting's there, but he's not as good as he was, way before. Just overall, I mean, this Cardinals team is a great, I don't want to say great, but has a potential to be a great offense, but it's just blanks all over the defensive side of the board. And like you said, you can't be giving up 34 points a week every week. Like, this team is going to score with the best of them, getting shootouts. We're going to think like this team is like an unbreakable force, but it's like, yeah, their offense is good, but their defense is going to get just murdered every game. Like, they're going to lose games 21-41, play great teams like this 28-34, but they're not going to win it. Their defense is not going to hold it down for them. They can just let up easy plays and drives.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Darius Robinson, but they're going to be awful on defense for a while. Like I said, they're able to generate some explosive plays on offense, but if they can figure out how to even be a competent defense, they can probably surprise some people. They can probably win more games than people expect. I don't expect them to make any deep runs or anything, or even like a wild card game, but they could upset some teams in the regular season if you're not careful with them.
I mean, looking at their schedule now, just because I had it pulled up as well, just looking at the scores and stuff like that. They got a rough stretch of games. They're going to play the Rams, the Lions, and then you have some give me's. I won't say give me's because they're tough games, but you play the Commanders. Man, Arizona have a good game. They can beat the Commanders. Playing the Chargers might be a little rough. The Bears, that might be a little different with the stout defense, but they're often the Cardinals, not the Cardinals, but the Bears offense ain't going to score. Um, Playing the Vikings, the Pats are going to be rough, and play the Panthers. I mean, this team could come out with cool 6 wins, 7 wins.
No, absolutely. Another fun game we had. Ravens and Chiefs, the first game of the week, Thursday Night Football. Great, great fun game. It was an intense game to watch. I know there was a lot of talk about Lamar Jackson's play. Overall, I thought Lamar Jackson, I thought he did, he was inconsistent, but he was overall, I think he was the second best quarterback, arguably the best of the week. So that last drive, though, is kind of, I think, what kills a lot of people's overall picture of him, though, because he makes an awesome throw to Bateman on the sidelines to get them into the red zone, then whiffs on 2 open touchdowns, and then throws a dot to Likely. Unfortunately, Likely was out of bounds. So, Dylan,
Yeah.
what did you think of Lamar Jackson this week?
I thought Lamar was really good. He did, over 100 yards rushing, kind of doing his Lamar Jackson thing. Kind of one of our things we've been saying about him is not the greatest passer in a sense where you can't really trust him to throw the deepest ball unless his dude's wide open. Can't trust for it to be accurate at least. And has a little bit of a rough time on the completion percentage pass. But sacked once. That's what you want to hope for, and then over 100 rushing yards. I thought he played exceptionally well. You even said it yourself. One of the better quarterbacks of the league. I thought Josh Allen also had a really good game as well too. Be honestly, probably a toss up between the two on who probably played better this week. But overall, no turnovers except that one fumble, which whatever. Being a rushing quarterback, it's bound to happen. But yeah, I actually agree with what Pat said. They got dominated on the line of scrimmage though. When it seemed like close, short formations, it's like the Chiefs could push them back. It seemed like and that's always how I felt about the Ravens. If you're able to let them spread the ball, kind of get a good flow or tempo, that's cool. But when you get them kind of restricting them in a little bit of an area, they do struggle.
I almost feel like they let their guards go because it almost seems like they're a team that just might undervalue guard play a little bit. And the reason why is they have Lamar that likes to get out of the pocket and extend plays. So pressure up the middle. I think they probably assume that, okay, we can probably put some weaker players here, but Lamar's, can overcome that and make it work. And unfortunately, guards are getting expensive, and this roster is also expensive. I do agree. The interior of the offensive line isn't going to cut it. And I think the person who gets hurt the most from that is actually probably Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry's the guy that likes to run north-south. He needs some extra blocking up the middle. And we saw it overall. Derrick Henry, he had a couple of plays that Thursday, but I don't think that was the debut people were looking for with Derrick Henry. 3.5 yards a carry. His preferred running lanes with the guards getting blown up, they were just non-existent. So overall,
yeah, just to agree, that's not what you want to see out of someone like Derrick Henry. 3.5 yards per carry, 13 carries for 46 yards. He did have that touchdown, but he didn't have anything, longer than over 9 yards a carry. And it's like, that's not what we know Derrick Henry for. We know for him to be able to take off for that big run for 30, 40, for him to be able to just break off speed. And it just seems like he wasn't ever given that opportunity to do that. He had to work with what he was given, get that short gain. And if he had to grind for extra yards where, that could be contributed to having bigger breakaways. In this case for him, it was just like, no, this is how I get, 8, 9 yards instead of like 4 or 5.
I think so too. Don't worry. I'm going to mention the Raiders in a minute. That I have to talk about that game, but before I get to there, I 100% agree with you, Dylan, but I think we just have to overall, too, shout out the play of Likely, man. Mark Andrews legitimately might be tight end 2 this year. If Likely keeps up his play like he did week 1, and it's not like he can, we've seen him be explosive like that. So I think overall, I think Isaiah Likely just might be legit and push Mark Andrews into a lesser role this year.
Which is crazy to think because, I mean, it's really what injury that kind of took Mark Andrews out. It's not like he really kind of slowly just digressed. It was like he got injured and coming back from that, he hasn't necessarily been the same. It just seems like he got injured and the Ravens don't look at him as much anymore. Like he's kind of like a broken toy. And it's like, well, still good probably. And they're like, ooh, Isaiah Likely, he's young, new, and shiny, and he can catch for 100 yards now. Even though they've had Likely on the team for a little bit, but
yeah, absolutely. It's like in Toy Story when they throw the toy down, like I don't want to play with you another. That's Mark Andrews right now.
They're like, we have Zay Flowers, Derrick Henry, and Isaiah Likely. A little sprinkle in a little bit of Rashad Bateman. They don't need Mark Andrews anymore.
Well, this is something Gene and I were saying before the season even started. I've been saying before it started that I don't think Derrick Henry's a good fit for the Ravens offense. And the reason I said that is because it's not that I don't think Derrick Henry's a skilled back. It's a schematic issue.
Yeah, agreed.
Derrick Henry wants to get a running start and plow into the opposing team and just bowl them over with that running start. Lamar Jackson is at best being a zone runner out of the shotgun. So, and plus, as we saw, the guard play is not great to kind of help out Derrick Henry. So a lot of those runs he's trying to almost do by himself because he's just getting draped the second he hits the line. So hopefully they can figure that out. But I think Derrick Henry has a down year. I don't think he necessarily is any less talented than the year before, but I think he definitely has a down year this year.
Yeah, which just sucks because we were talking about Derrick Henry as being like one of those like close to 2,000-yard guys. You remember that? When Derrick Henry was that close? Man, yeah, very much a schematic issue. You put a spread it out type of team with a power running, and it's like, no, you need to put Derrick Henry back on like a power running team, the team that has strong offensive line. It's what we've kind of known Tennessee for being, was a good, strong offensive line team. Maybe not the best, but definitely not the worst. And you kind of throw them in a Ravens aspect where they're used to kind of moving a little bit more. Maybe instead of being as strong as they are in comparison to other O-linemen, which someone like Derrick Henry needs to do his style of running, they're a little more quick. They're a little more agile, can get off blocks a little bit quicker to move around because they do have a quarterback like Lamar Jackson who's going to run in these different zones, take off as a quarterback where you need a little more outside protection rather than inside run protection. And that's where that guard play struggles because they haven't really had to rely on the guards too much. Even when the Ravens did rush on their running backs, it was a lot of like good receiving backs or even more of an elusive back that will take it out to the outside more than he'll take it on the inside just because he can't take those hits. And then when you get a guy like Derrick Henry there, I feel like they're going to just treat Derrick Henry like they kind of did Gus Edwards a little bit, And he wasn't even a super, super power back, but I just don't feel like he's going to get utilized properly. Crap, look at J.K. Dobbins. Look what he did for the Chargers his first week. So obviously some things might just be schematic issues because I don't think J.K. Dobbins ever played that good. Was that like one of his career games?
Mm-hmm.
I feel like. Because, he definitely didn't do that with the Ravens. At least it felt like. I could be wrong.
Yeah, speaking of the Chargers-Raiders game, I think the Raiders just genuinely have themselves a Hall of Famer on their roster. And his name is Joe Alt. That man, coming into game one, he looks poised, he looks balanced. And not to mention, you throw a rookie against Max Crosby, and he allows 0 pressures and 19 snaps and just shuts everybody down. Obviously, it's too early to legitimately say Hall of Fame. Injuries can happen. But if this is the worst that Joe Alt is going to be as a raw rookie, if he stays healthy, that man is headed for the Hall. I don't even question it.
And Joe Thomas 2.0.
Yeah.
No, he's good. He's a big, giant tackle. It's like you can see him on the field. Like there's players like that who just bring that kind of size and stuff like that where you're like, man, he is different from the rest. But Joe Alt, he is just a big boy on the field. It's like, damn, is he like they're running 6 linemen out there now? It's just Joe Alt and the other 4.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think overall, Harbaugh ball. Listen, I think Justin Herbert's going to have the best year of his career. Now,
But I don't
I
think
think
it'll be his best. I don't think it'll be his best statistic year because, like, I don't
no.
think stat wise, but I think he'll have his best just overall like completion percentage when it comes to just like interception turnover value. Just because this rushing game is gonna be nasty. Like,
Yep.
I'm sorry, Baltimore. The Chargers literally poached your running back core and said, "Look, this is how you use it."
No, absolutely. Like, and that's where I'm. That's what I was thinking too. Right. I think he's going to have a career low in a lot of stats. I mean, like yards and passing attempts. But I think he's going to have his highest completion percentage. I think he's going to be insanely efficient this year. Like, see, he's not going to put up the big numbers that a lot of people expect now from these quarterbacks. But I think he's just going to be this incredible, incredible talent like he's always been, except he's going to be doing it in a more balanced offense, which I think only benefits him. J.K. Dobbins was absolutely incredible. Doing, by the way, like, I love the running back stats for the Chargers. I'm going to read them off real quick. We had Herbert, 4 rushes for 6 yards. Okay. Gus Edwards, 11 rushes for 26. Darius Davis, 2 rushes for 9 yards. Then we get to J.K. Dobbins, who had 10 rushes for 135 yards.
Yeah, he averaged 13 yards a carry.
Yeah, it's absolute insanity. And if they can keep the ground game going like that, you're going to see the best version of Justin Herbert. Crosby got son. Slater beat Crosby too. Yeah, Rashawn Slater, Joe Alt duo. Woo! That's tough.
Yeah, I mean, man, you got to think you have 2 of the best tackle combos, and you're going to be a rushing team. Just imagine when hate to say it, Lad McConkey looked great. I won't say great, but Lad McConkey looked good. He had that touchdown. The receiving core is still, there's still some question marks out there. Didn't really get a nice sample size from Quentin Johnson, but that's to be expected. And then other than that, it was just what tight ends and then a couple throws to Josh Palmer we can get a throw to. I mean, overall, Herbert was focused in on 2 targets that game, really, and it was Johnson and McConkey. They had 12 of his 17 completions. It felt like 19 or something along those lines.
Oh, absolutely. I think
which is good. You want to see that high receivers, but are those guys the answer? Maybe McConkey, but Johnson.
Listen, Quentin Johnson looked a lot more comfortable than last year. He definitely looked a lot better. I think that's not really saying that much, but
Fair.
At least he's looking more confident this year. And that's a huge, even that in itself is a huge step up from him.
Man, I just realized how many Chargers players the Ravens players, how many Ravens players are on the Chargers? They got Hayden Hurst over there as well, too.
Yeah, no, you know what? There's definitely a couple more games I want to talk to you about real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
And why don't we do it? I kind of want to save the Patriots on the off. I'm going to put the Patriots off a little bit later just in case Kyle does pop in. So if you're listening, Kyle, we're hopefully saving the Patriots for you.
For a brief sidebar, let's talk about just maybe we don't even have to talk about the game as a whole, but Baker Mayfield, man, he looked good. I mean, I'm not getting on that hype train, but only 6 incompletions, almost 300 yards, 4 touchdowns, got 146 QBR. Man, it's the Commanders. And we've known the Commanders for having a good defense, and now it's kind of fell off since they've really just traded everyone and kept Jonathan Allen is what it really feels like. But still got Jeremy Chin, got Frankie Louvu, who was honestly one of the better linebackers last year. You had Bobby Wagner. I don't know. I'm not saying it was a crap defense. I'm not saying it was anything great neither, but Baker Mayfield looked good. That whole Buccaneers offense, they're good. Bucky Irving was a surprising little nice piece on that offense. Almost 10, had 9 rushes for 62 yards. Still have Rachaad White there. Still have great receivers and Evans and Godwin who looked on their stride. Evans had 2 touchdowns. White even still had 75 yards. I don't know, man. I said it from the start when I talked to Kyle a couple weeks ago when we were doing our NFL preview. I have the Bucks winning this NFC South.
I love it. I want Baker to continue to succeed just for the sole purpose of the Browns picking Deshaun Watson over him and then
Yup.
playing him. It's just an absolute 10 out of 10 story. Baker looked fantastic. He's very good once you get him in a rhythm. Overall, love what we saw from Baker. And of course, honestly, I'm not going to overlook him. I thought Jaden Daniels also looked good too. Did throw for a touchdown, but only 7 completions. And listen, that
no turnovers neither.
Yeah, that's what I was most impressed with. That's a tough Buccaneers defense, and he took care of the football.
Yeah, I mean, the Commanders' main thing, it was like their offense looked good. They just couldn't score on some drives where they really needed it, and that was what the Buccaneers could do. They could score on almost all of their drives where the Commanders get close, have to have a bad 4 and out. Where it was like the Buccaneers were like, hey man, we're scoring every drive somehow. Like we're gonna have maybe a punt or two. Where you watch the Commanders and it was like maybe Daniels didn't make so much of rookie mistakes where like I just couldn't get something going. Brian Robinson looked good. And I'm a little disappointed in Ekeler.
No, I just want to say for the Commanders, though, it was a great first game, but please don't rush Jaden McDaniels 16 times every game because that's a great way to get him rocked and knocked out early. That's my only concern with that game, really, or that's my biggest concern with the whole offensive plan in Jaden Daniels. I think you should use his legs on design rollouts and still run with them. But when I look at the box score and I see 16 rushing attempts, it's a bit excessive.
Yeah, man. When my quarterback is rushing for basically the same amount of times as he's throwing for a game, he had 17. Well, at least completion wise, he had 17 completions. He had 16 rushes, and it's like, ooh, you're at that line there, and it's like I get it. He like we said that Toy Story, but he's a brand new toy. He's that brand new that object that you just got, and it's just like don't break it right away, like directly on Christmas.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like I said, I like him. Like I said, I'm just a little concerned about his long-term health if they're going to start running him that much.
Yeah, it kind of gives you a little bit of Anthony Richardson treatment. It was like he's not as big as Richardson, of course. Richardson kind of did it to himself where like he would muscle up a little bit more, kind of just like try to run through a guy as well as be elusive. But like Daniels is a little bit smaller, so he takes one of those hits, he maybe not be able to shoulder it as well. And we saw Richardson go down for the rest of the season. Play 4 or 5 weeks, and then we didn't see him for the rest of the season. So you don't want to see that for Daniels, especially when he looked this good young. Like no offense to Anthony Richardson, he was a way more of a project than what Jaden Daniels is. But Jaden Daniels is a 5-year player in college, but he looked good. I think Jaden Daniels looked like one of the I don't want to say it, but he looked like probably the best rookie quarterback of week 1, I would say. Just the no turnover part is where I'm fixed on it. Like that's crazy. I feel like that's crazy. We saw a lot of 2-year guys. We saw Daniel Jones throw 2 picks.
My favorite stat from this weekend will forever be Daniel Jones has more pick sixes than touchdowns to his own team since
I remember that.
I don't even think that's actually crazy at all that you have the Bucs as a top 4 NFC team. That would just require them winning their division. And I could absolutely see it. I could see them also just kind of being the 4th best team in general. Like I said, I think your top 3 teams, it's going to be the Eagles, 49ers, and Lions, whichever order you want to put them in. The Bucs being the 4th best team right behind those guys, that wouldn't surprise me at all. I'd put them above like the Cowboys.
Agreed. I mean, the only downside for the Bucs is Antoine Winfield's probably going to be out for a little bit, but the Bucs have a lot of guys who have been on their team for a while, though. Jamel Dean's been on there. Levante David's been on the Bucs for ever, his whole career. I mean, it feels like 20 years now I've seen Levante David play. I honestly forgot he was still here. Vit Villa is really good. Joe Tryon-Shoyinka is really good. They just have a lot of guys who have stayed on this team, and I mean, the Saints kind of put some thoughts in people's heads, I imagine, and then the Falcons struggled, but overall, Obviously, I don't even need to mention the Panthers, but overall, I mean, right now it's feeling like could be a Bucks Saints race, and I'd put my money on the Bucks on that one.
I'm not moved by the Saints.
Nah, I think that was more so that you played the Panthers, and that's really what it boils down to.
Yeah, I think it was just an omen when Bryce Young's first pass of the game was picked off.
Yeah.
That set the tone for the rest of the game, and it was just like a beatdown throughout the entire way. It's really unfortunate. I want to like cheer for Bryce Young, and I hope he succeeds, but it did not look. We're not off to a good start with that one though. Hopefully, I'm hoping he bounces back next week. Even if the Panthers suck, I hope Bryce Young has a good year.
I do too, because I mean, it's not like that's always just the crappy thing with some players. It's like, man, some players just like I want to see them do good, but it's like, man, either you just suck or it's a shitty situation. But like, I hope you do good. They played the Chargers next week, so that will be interesting. They play the Raiders week 3, so I feel like that's where you kind of maybe we'll probably see a little bit better out of them. Maybe not. That Raiders defense is scary. Probably be even worse.
Yeah, that Raiders defense is going to be scary against. But honestly, yeah.
Panthers taking for a pass. Who are the Panthers even tanking for a pass catcher?
Probably
could be a QB.
I would say probably just honestly, they need a tackle. They need a left tackle. They need help on that side of the line. I actually think that they have a really good interior. Corbett, Hunt, Lewis, I like that 3. I think they have a really solid interior of the line. Tyler Morton is actually pretty solid. I think he's solid. Not perfect, but solid. But I can't even really pronounce his name. Ikem Ekwonu?
Oh, yeah, I know who you're talking about. Ikem Ekwonu. Yeah, I know who you're talking about.
What?
Icky.
I'm actually able to... I kind of watched some of the game earlier, and I turned it off really quick because it just was painful. But I'm looking at this offensive line performance on a PFF. That everybody else they did all right, but him allowing 4 pressures and 3 hurries, he's just a walking turnstile on every single pass snap. And the thing with that too is he allowed all that, and he only had 25 reps. He only had 25 passing snaps.
And the crazy thing about the Panthers line, it's not bad. Taylor Motton's been a decent right tackle for years. Ikem Ekwonu is a very good young guy. You have Damian Lewis, who just came over from Seattle, and they paid him a good amount. You had Robert Hunt, who came over from Miami. You paid him a good amount. And then you have Austin Corbett at center, who was honestly been a very veteran starter in the league for a little bit now. And it's just why are you is it scheme? Is it do these guys just not care? Because it's honestly, on paper, you just throw these guys, you look at offensive linemen just by name, you could probably pick up more players from this team than you can for anyone else. At least when it comes to starting 5 for offensive line, and it's why are they struggling?
Yeah, I really think they have a solid offensive line, but you know what they say, your line's only as strong as your weakest link. And when your left tackle is just getting absolutely barbecued anytime he steps onto a football field.
And the crazy thing is he was supposed to be the best one, too. He's the youngest guy. He's the one you spent a first-round pick on 2 years ago. It's nah, you had to outsource in free agency to kind of fill up for his needs. And it's well, he's still the biggest need. I feel what it was is he looked so good for the Panthers because they didn't have any offensive line. And then they built up an offensive line, and it's oh, man, he actually wasn't as good neither.
No, absolutely. Oh, my goodness. There he is. Ladies and gentlemen, it's the GOAT. It is Kyle.
What's up?
What's up?
We're going through. We're talking about all the different games that happened. We're saving this one for you, Kyle. We'll get right into it.
Okay.
Your Patriots are 1-0. They're on pace to go 17-0. They're going to win the Super Bowl. They stomped out Joe Burrow. What did you think of the Patriots on Sunday?
I mean, I thought it was a pretty good first showing. I feel like there's a lot of questions about Gerard Mayo going into the season and whether or not he was going to be a good coach or exactly like what kind of coach he would be. You just went off of all those years with Bill Belichick. So a lot of Patriots fans are obviously really tuned into it to see how the team would play. I, give them a lot of credit. They had a game plan. They executed it. Like they look like a team that was prepared. They're showing that they're going to be a physical team. Ramondre Stevenson runs for 120 yards. He has like 118 after contact. Still some questions about the O-line, but I felt like they really did a great job. And defensively, we kind of know what they are on defense. A lot of good players over there. Keon White, I feel like with all the Judon stuff, he played really well. Got to Joe Burrow a few times. 2.5 sacks. So
Forced fumble too.
Yeah. So I mean, it was a really good showing. I know Cincinnati has their own issues. Offensively, a lot of people are looking at how kind of bland it was and, want them to kind of expand upon it because, Jamar Chase had a couple of catches, but, he only had like one over 20 yards. That's kind of not a normal thing for him. Running the ball wise, they didn't really do much on the ground either. So it's like I said, it's only week one. I'm not going to go crazy over Cincinnati or even New England. Like it was a good win for them, but now it's like, can they build off of that? And now that there's tape, you got Dylan's squad. That's about to go ahead
happening.
And go up
ain't
against
happening.
them. And right, but like if you look at like Seattle poses other issues than Cincinnati does. So now, because Gerard Mayo had so much time to prepare for Cincinnati, so now he's back on the cadence of week-to-week game planning. What does the game plan look like for Seattle, and how well can they execute that?
Man, will this be our first rookie? I know we got 8 new head coaches. This is our first matchup where we'll see 2 of the new ones face each other. No, I guess you wouldn't count Chargers Raiders because their coach was kind of already there. He's interim.
Yeah, Pierce is already there.
I think so.
I think it is.
Mayo,
I guess
Mayo
technically
McDonald.
counts as, Mayo McDonald will be his first one. Yeah. So I'll be interested. Especially Seattle going on the road. You'll see what McDonald does, road preparation, everything like that. I think it's going to be a really good game because, like I said, Seattle poses a dual threat in the backfield with Walker. Although I know Walker got banged up a little bit with Charbonnet. Geno Smith, I thought played well. He used his legs. He made some plays with his arm. So I feel like it's a different dynamic for the defense there. And, Seattle's defense, we'll see. Can Ramondre Stevenson repeat rushing for 120 or at least rush for like 100, something like that?
To be fair, though, if there's one thing I've known about Seattle, our Achilles heels are strong offensive line and then stopping the run. So seeing Ramondre rush for 120 in a game and then having to go, in Gillette Stadium, play the Patriots, and then just after a big Ramondre game, it's gonna be crazy.
Yeah. But I mean, Brett, I'll let you continue to run it because I mean you've been doing it so far.
Yeah, I don't mind. It's not worse than Trevor Penning. No one's worse than Trevor. Trevor Penning is a god awful right tackle.
Man, he got a week 1 win, so I guess he gets a pass. But it's just because you play the Panthers, man. And Brian Burns got hurt.
Yeah, he got them a week 1 win, just like Caleb Williams got the Bears a week 1 wins. They were both just kind of
right. Yeah.
We were definitely physical. Like to see pass the ball more on second down. Defense was great. Hopefully Barrymore comes back. Leonard Williams could be a problem, but Seattle's offensive line is pretty bad too. Fant and Cross are terrible.
Cross actually had one of the best PFF grades for week 1. He didn't allow a single pressure, didn't allow a single sack. He didn't allow nothing. He was the best graded tackle for week 1. So love him or hate him, Cross actually played decent week 1. He wasn't super great last year. I'll give you credit towards that. But, I mean, for start of the season, I mean, he's technically the best right now. So I won't hate it.
I will say about the Bengals. First off, Jamar Chase looked absolutely disinterested out there.
He don't got
looked
money, which
absolutely-
is sad.
Yeah, he just looked like this was just a Friday morning like walk through, and he's just going through the motions until he gets paid. And also the Bengals, I don't know why they'd be so shocked they struggle on offense. They don't have a real run game.
Nope.
And it's interested Jamar Chase until he gets paid. No T. Higgins. And I'm sorry, Zach Moss is not going to take you to the promised land. So
You know they miss Joe Mixon so bad after he's the week 1 rushing leader. Like, you
Right.
know they miss Joe Mixon so bad. And he was willing to play cheap for you guys, too. And you said, no, we don't want you. And he said,
Yeah.
okay, I'll go to Houston and just be the best running back week 1.
Yeah.
Crazy. I love the NFL. I love stories like that.
I mean, look, another thing that Cincinnati has working for them is they always start slow. So
Fair. They
Bengals
always,
fans
it
are
feels
like
for the
prepared
last
for this.
Honestly, it feels like since Joe Burrow's been there, they've always lost their first game.
Yeah.
Honestly, I'm going to look that up. I honestly think since Joe Burrow's been there, they've lost all of their week 1 games.
Oh man.
I'm going to skip that. Come, we'll go to this one.
Yes, please.
All right, yeah. Let's talk about some Rams and Lions. The only game that went into overtime.
Yeah.
I thought that was a fun game overall. Matthew Stafford looked great. Goff also looked really good overall. The Lions look like the team to beat in the NFC. What did y'all think about Rams Lions?
I just like where the Lions can just line up, be physical, dominate in the trenches, while still, Goff can do his thing with his arm. But the Montgomery, I know a lot of people want to see like more of Jahmyr Gibbs, of course, but it doesn't hurt to have 2 capable backs that give you something a little different. Because I thought like the drive in overtime, which I know a lot of people, cried about, oh, Stafford didn't get a chance to have the ball. It's like, well, that's the playoff rule, which I'm fine with it being separate from the playoffs in the regular season. But like that right there just showed you where Detroit has come. Line up, Montgomery running it down your throat and then runs it into the end zone. Like they look like a team that has definitely learned from the past couple of years. The first year they make it to week 17 with a chance to make the playoffs. They fall short because of certain tiebreakers and all that. Last year they make the big leap, making the playoffs, making a little bit of noise. Like they look like a team that's prepared to get back there, and who knows? Could they be a Super Bowl type team? I wouldn't be shocked. Now, obviously, you still have plenty of weeks to go, but I thought for them it was a great showing. For the Rams, I'm not as high on the Rams this season as some people are, but like the Puka Nacua injury, you guys see what that looks like was it like 4 weeks or something? He might have to sit. What does that do to their offense? Cooper Kupp looked fine, so I think they'll be okay as long as Matt Stafford stays upright, of course. But I really did like what I saw from the Lions.
Quick sidebar, I found out Joe Burrow's won his second season opener. He's lost every other season opener.
Yeah.
He won his second one of his sophomore season against the Minnesota Vikings in overtime, though. So they got close to choking it away.
Yeah.
They won in overtime by a field goal. Joe Burrow's sophomore year.
I think my favorite Joe Burrow stat of all time will be like, and somebody posted it and it was like absolutely hilarious. It was like Joe Burrow 5-1 against Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen, but then he was like 0-6. I can't remember the quarterback. He's like 0-6 against like Jacoby Brissett, and I can't remember the other quarterback that they named, but it's like Joe Burrow has to play a good team, otherwise he just doesn't care.
Probably like Jacoby Brissett, Kenny Pickett.
right? I can't remember the second quarterback, but it was like, gosh, this man is literally just a big game performer. Otherwise, he just doesn't show up at all.
Hey, I respect it. That's kind of why he's got the name like Joe Burr. And people remember the playoff run, him like the fur coat, and like that became a thing. And he plays in a division where luckily he has to play, a big name quarterback and good team in the Ravens twice. He has to play the Steelers twice, which are storied franchise. They usually have a pretty good defense, so he gets up for those games. And even on their schedule, like they have some other ones, so that's not necessarily a terrible thing because there's a lot of quarterbacks in this league who get paid, get a lot of praise, that don't beat good teams. At least Burrow does that.
No, absolutely.
I agree with that. I honestly like that statement. You mean you want to win them all? It's like you would hate for your quarterback to, not win the ones you're supposed to, but you would rather him at the end of it win the ones he needs to. And I mean, that might be a weird approach to look at it, but like, man, if it boils down to it, if my team's 10-7, but Joe Burrow can win every single playoff game, I just need him to win every single playoff game. Like, that's all I need. I mean, it doesn't matter what my the regular season record does not matter. And like the only thing it's helpful for is if you're the first seed, you get a bye.
Mm-hmm.
Other than that, like you can play in them big games. Like that's all we need.
No, and they have the Chiefs coming up, right?
I believe so.
So expect to see a pretty good Joe Burrow this week coming up.
Let's see, I'll double check.
Why is that game not a primetime game? Yeah, they play them, but why is that game not a primetime game? I'm sorry. Why is Bears Texans the primetime game? No offense to the Texans. Texans deserve primetime.
We know why.
Caleb Williams. But I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. You're telling me you're putting Eagles Falcons on Monday. You could have flexed that. You could flex Texans Bears to that. You could put just dumb. You got two of the best AFC teams, and you don't make that one of the big games.
Watch Caleb Williams throw for 90 yards.
I'm sorry. The Bengals are losing. That's not big enough for Joe Burrow. It's not prime time. Don't get a big game. It's not big enough for Burrow. I'm sorry.
That's true.
I'm taking Chiefs by 11.
And we'll get it next week right after this last game. I know this broke your heart to see, Kyle, but the 49ers steamrolled the Jets Monday night. It wasn't even close, and it was a lot uglier than people thought. The big story, Jordan Mason just absolutely running all over that Jets defense. And honestly, that's the shocking part. I expected the Jets to lose this game. I expected Aaron Rodgers to look rough. You're asking a 40-year-old quarterback who hasn't played a real live game snap in a year, and that was only 4 snaps. So you're asking him to come back against arguably the best defense in the league. I expected them to lose this one. But I expected the Jets defense to also be a lot better than what they showed. So what did you guys think of this game?
I think you said it perfectly. It's like we understand San Francisco's offense is, multi-dimensional and everything like that. That was with Christian McCaffrey. When you heard Christian McCaffrey was inactive, you kind of thought maybe the Jets would get a break from that and, could hone in on the passing game a little bit more. But San Francisco took it like, okay, we got Jordan Mason, big physical runner. We'll line up. If you want to match our physicality, sure. But they learned very early on that they could push the Jets front around, and they just kept feeding Mason. I mean, look at how many times Brock Purdy ran play action, boot action, and had nothing but opportunity to look down the field, point to guys, move them around, and find wide open receivers. Like the Jets could do nothing. I wouldn't have cared if, Mason ran for like 120, but they held the passing game in check and like Brock Purdy struggled. Mason dominated. Brock Purdy looked great. So for a Jets team that, you got Williams, you got Mosley, you have Sauce Gardner, like you have some pieces over there. They look like they weren't prepared, or like they were just completely surprised by the Niners' ability to run. Trent Williams gets in there. They get no pressures from that side, but then again, that's Trent Williams. Like, that's what he does. And then even on the other side of the ball, Aaron Rodgers didn't look that great. Like, he had a couple of throws, but he was under duress a lot of the night. Brees Hall was a non-factor in the running game. And if that's how they're going to play against some of these certain teams, like, they may struggle to be a playoff team. Now, once again, only week one. They have plenty of other opportunities, but I don't know. If the defense is going to take a step back like they did, that might be putting too much on Aaron Rodgers to try to save them. And that fourth down play, Garrett Wilson beats the defender on the slant, and Rodgers throws it behind him and low and brings the defender back into the play. Little things like that. Is that maybe him slowly working his way into the season, or is that kind of where he is right now? Timing's a little bit off with these guys. Like, they have to kind of get this going quickly because we know New York's not going to be patient with them. So,
yeah, and it sucks being Aaron Rodgers and suffering the injury that you had your first game of the season, being like, sorry, the toughest team in the NFC, arguably. It's super close, but I know a lot of people are probably taking the 49ers, especially after the given performance. And it's just like, man, being Aaron Rodgers and figuring out like, hey, man, your first game back isn't going to be against maybe you got to play the Commanders. Maybe you got to play this team, even a tough game against the Patriots. It's like, no, you got to play probably the NFC champion this year. Like, good luck.
And I think Pat.
Not only do you have to play the NFC champion, you have to play the NFC champion at home.
Yeah.
No, absolutely.
Well, with that bad New York turf, you probably didn't want him to start in New York.
I know. You knew the NFL like once like no weird Aaron Rodgers crap happened, he didn't retire or something. They had to make the schedule like, what are we going to do with the Jets? And it's like, well, if their first game is going to have to be an away game.
Yeah.
They're like, what is one of the best fields in the NFL? San Francisco? I think San Francisco sounds good.
And Pat, I hate to tell you, but Nathaniel Hackett's just going to get outcoached every week. Nathaniel Hackett is a terrible offensive coordinator. He's not good. The man got a job, ironically, because of how the offense looked under him in Green Bay with MVP Aaron Rodgers. That is literally like the Jets.
And I think you want to know what's so funny about that? He gets all that credit, but we all know Rodgers ran Rodgers ball the whole time, too.
And that's the funny part. To me, that's just like when the Jets gave Adam Gase that big contract. Why? Oh, well, the offense looked good when Peyton Manning threw for like 55 touchdowns. Like, yeah, was that Adam Gase or was that Peyton Manning doing the work there? So,
was that Peyton Manning hearing the play call and being like, no, we're running this now?
Yeah. History repeats itself, I guess. And the funny part is the Jets are doing it again. They knew Hackett was bad, but, at the end of the day, he's Rodgers' guy. So they brought him in.
And Josh McDaniels experience as well, too.
No,
I would take McDaniels as an OC way before.
Agreed.
I will take the first fan who buys a ticket as an OC over Nathaniel Hackett.
Right.
They give him a play call and they're like, dude,
you're good enough.
Yeah, like, yo, cool. You scored 20 in Madden one time? Good enough.
You're like, we can't even score 20 in real life.
Right.
As
I was saying
from
Pat, Pat saying like they need to sign Reddick. If you're Hassan Reddick and you sat back and saw how they couldn't get any pressure on Brock Purdy, he's like, yeah, whatever my number was before, let's bump it up a little bit more.
I would
oh man, it's like you don't know if it's like 2 step forward, 1 step backward for him, or like vice versa, because it's like, man, he is losing a ton of money at the same time too. He's lost already $5 million.
Yeah.
And so it's like, when does it become worth it? Like to get an extra, 30, 40. But what happens if you lose 20? You only got an extra 10 out of it.
Yeah.
And so but I do agree, Reddick is needed. No pressure, no nothing was really anything. Jermaine Johnson didn't really look super great. He spent a first-round pick on him. They need Reddick back.
Yep.
Absolutely. Now, I figure we try to try to touch on every game. I think the only one we didn't talk about was I forgot about Steelers and Falcons overall.
That was such a crap game,
Right, that
though.
was just such a mid game that's all right. We can skip right over that one.
But let's say, hey, my pick was correct. My pick was correct. I said Steelers upset, Steelers upset.
He did. Yep.
I figure why not do some week. Do you guys have any week one overreactions? And this
An
is
overreaction.
4 overreactions.
I mean, I will say, I think the Bucks win the NFC South.
There we go.
Reaction.
I just have a
There
feeling
we
that the Falcons are gonna struggle because that game against the Steelers was probably a game that they needed to win because their next 2 or 3, I believe, are games they could very easily lose. And if they get started at like 0-4, 0-3, we already know it's already happening. Like people are already talking about should Penix be starting, which after one game, kind of crazy. But if they are 0-3, 0-4, yeah, that's going to probably start being a little bit louder. And if you look at Tampa Bay, Baker Mayfield had a pretty good day. And
no turnovers?
yeah, and that's like the key thing. If Baker doesn't turn the ball over, Tampa Bay can win some games. So I liked what I saw from Tampa Bay. I have a lot of issues with, Atlanta, and like they just look lost offensively. Like they had a guy going in motion, the ball gets snapped to him, they end up turning the ball over. Like that shows he wasn't ready. They could not make an adjustment on TJ Watt. TJ Watt single-handedly destroyed their offense. And they never decided anything else to do other than, we'll hope and pray that I think it was McGarry was on him. Yeah, he'll stop him eventually. It's like, no, TJ Watt's killing him play after play. Do something about it. So I'm gonna go ahead and say it. I think the Bucks win the NFC South.
My biggest concern with the Falcons, I think it comes back down to actually Kirk Cousins, and he looked very concerning. And if you watch Kirk Cousins, and my concern with him is he doesn't look comfortable planting his foot. It's the same. His plant foot is the same foot that Achilles popped in.
Mm-hmm.
He did not look comfortable just planting and driving the football. And that just led to a lot of throws just being low and just off target that we wouldn't necessarily see from him. So overall, that's one thing where I want to see from Kirk. If this maybe it's just week one, slowly working his way back into it, that's probably accurate. But if he struggles all year, whether it's still in pain or it's just mentally he can't plant his foot and really drive into these throws, this offense can be just a lot more horrendous than people think. Yeah. I think my overreaction, Caleb Williams is a bust. They should just trade him already. Overall, I'm the biggest, I was hating on the Bears because that's kind of my job at this time of the year.
Mm-hmm.
Caleb Williams was terrible against the Titans. But on the flip side, he's still young, still a rookie. I think he'll get more comfortable in the pocket. The Titans are really getting a lot of pressure with just 4, and that's going to bother any quarterback. So I think there's a lot of overreactions going on about Caleb Williams right now. And, we just got to chill out. It's week one. It's the biggest week for overreactions and just bizarre things to happen. I think Caleb Williams, he bounces back and really nicely next week.
My overreaction, since it's an overreaction, the Colts going to steal a wild card spot. I'm all on the Anthony Richardson hype train. I'm all for the Colts, man. I like this team from top to bottom. I like Anthony Richardson. I don't care he was a project quarterback. I was like, so what? If he scores, that's what I need. I don't care if he doesn't have the flashy quarterback stats. He could have 6 completions for 300 yards. and like 3 touchdowns, and that's a very average Anthony Richardson, stat day.
Mhm.
And I don't care for it. This Colts team is so fun to watch. I think Anthony Richardson, like me and Brett were talking about earlier, if he can just do the little things right, if he can just do the simple quarterback stuff better, he already has the hard stuff down to a T. Like, man, the Colts still just my overreaction is the Colts still a playoff spot. Maybe not a high record, like 9-8, 10-7. Maybe some of the other teams we expect to do bad. But when you have 7 spots, let them steal it. Make some noise, have some fun. They played well against the Texans, who are probably one of the favorited AFC teams outside of the Chiefs and maybe the Ravens.
Mhm.
Played them to almost overtime, down to the wire. And he's only going to get hopefully better from here.
Man, I love the NFL and the fact that we're trying to grow the game, and the game we send to Germany is the fucking Panthers and Giants. That is awful. Like the worst
They're
team
just,
in the
they're
league.
just hoping someone will cheer for him.
Yeah.
Maybe they might get booed off like mid halftime. They might just call it at halftime and maybe have like a Danny Dimes rap concert or something. Anything would be more entertaining than just actually watching that football game at that point.
To be fair, though, with that being said, just seeing how Sam Darnold did against the Giants, honestly, this might be like a good Bryce Young game. We might see Bryce Young, just settle down, throw Xavier Legette the ball a good couple times, maybe an Adam Thielen throwback game.
I turned and tuned into the Giants game really quickly, and it didn't take me long to see the issue with the Giants. I still think the Giants have one of the better front sevens in the league. I'm still high on that.
Mhm.
However, it is completely irrelevant when the secondary is getting beat within like half a nanosecond. So I'm watching the front seven come up and get pressure. It's absolutely irrelevant when Sam Darnold has his choice of like 3 wide open guys to throw to. So
And
I'm
sadly,
actually
one of
high-
the guys is named Justin Jefferson, who is the best receiver in the league.
Yeah, like I'm really high on the Giants front seven. Actually, I think they're still one of the best in the league. But crap, that secondary can't cover anyone. I like
No,
Malik
no.
Neighbors too, but he kind of needs a real quarterback to actually, throw to him.
Yeah, I honestly feel like the Giants are probably like they won't say it obviously out loud, being the team that they are. But that this week 1 performance was probably their barometer, just seeing to how good Daniel Jones is. And he's so bad, they're kind of just like, whatever. Like, we just know this is going to be our season. Like, it's not like Tommy DeVito is going to be better. Honestly, they should start Tommy DeVito just because I feel like he just brings a lot more fun energy into the team just because he's not sad Danny Dimes energy.
At this point,
I would start Drew Lock.
Oh, I forgot Drew Lock is there. My bad. I forgot.
Yeah, start
How
Drew
could I
Lock.
forget that?
anybody that isn't
Yeah, start
Daniel
Drew Lock.
Jones at this point.
Yeah, anyone who isn't Daniel Jones, actually. Like, I don't care who you start. Like, just don't let it be Daniel Jones.
I still find the hard knocks quote is going to come back to haunt them. We're not paying a running back, a quarterback, $40 million to hand it off to a $12 million running back. Well, maybe you should.
It's like, well, that $12 million that running back who is now making what, like 11 million, 10 million with another team is killing it.
Yeah.
And you're stuck with Devin Singletary, so.
Dude, their running game looked so bad. It looked horrible. They honestly need to cut Singletary and just make Eric Gray the focal point.
I don't even think that there's anything Singletary can do because, quite frankly, there's no threat of passing the football.
Right.
Why is
That's
Singletary even?
I can
Yeah,
love
like why is
Singletary
Singletary even there?
Like I feel like that's just like a death sentence for any running back you put back there because every time I can just load the box with 7 players and it just is completely irrelevant. Load with 8, 9 guys, and Daniel Jones isn't going to beat you with his arms. So,
like, you have Tyrone Tracy Jr. and Eric Gray who are young guys. Like, cut Singletary. Just tell Daniel Jones to just deal with it, and just literally play your whole backup squad, play your whole depth chart, play your whole second squad, because actually that's all the guys you should probably be playing anyways.
Yeah, if you're gonna be
outside of
bad.
like Malik Neighbors, like you need to
Yeah.
be playing. Like your receiving core needs to be Wandale Robinson, Malik Neighbors, Jalen Hyatt. I don't care about height. I don't care about height. I don't care about anything you have to tell me. Your team isn't going to win crap. You throw Drew Lock or someone in who there, and you just tell them, chuck the ball. Chuck the ball, hand off the ball to these running backs. I don't care
Yeah.
what your stat line is. We're going to pay you. And that's what they need to do because they just need progression from anyone around them that isn't Daniel Jones because you're not getting progression from Daniel Jones. Not getting a lick of progression from Daniel Jones because if you were, you would have gotten it when you paid him that $40 million. You would have gotten him, that whole 4 years of that rookie contract before you denied his option. And then, he did decent. I don't even think he had a great season. I wouldn't even put him as a top 15 quarterback maybe at that year. And then you paid him the amount of money you did.
Yeah, you're gonna lose. Put the young guys out there. Fans may, latch onto a couple of them who make a couple of plays every week. Like, give them something to root for. Giants fans go there and know Daniel Jones is starting. They're in their head like, how soon am I going to boo him? He's not going to do anything for me to cheer him. He's going to do something to make me feel like, why am I a Giants fan? Why did I pay to come here to watch this guy just stink week after week? At least Drew Lock there's like, he's not Daniel Jones. Could be much better. I'm sure he could probably make a couple of throws that, like that pick six that Daniel Jones threw. Like they're backed up on their own end zone. He takes forever to throw an out route. Like that's just ridiculous to see him doing that this point in his career. So, yeah.
Who would have thought Sam Darnold outplaying Daniel Jones would have been on their bingo card though for this season?
Well, it's all right. When Quinn Ewers or Shedeur Sanders roll up into New York next year, hopefully it'll be a lot better for them.
I'm sorry. If the Giants don't draft a quarterback, this is just the worst run franchise. Like you have to like literally only be for your first round meetings, only have to be quarterbacks. I don't care if it's a 7th round quarterback. You only meet with quarterbacks. Like your first round pick, you should not even question anybody else that is a quarterback. And like I get maybe a receiver, that would kind of be a little fun, but you have Jalen Hyatt, Malik Neighbors, and Wandale Robinson. Like you don't need a big threat guy. You have those guys. Go sign someone in free agency that wasn't the Kenny Golladay mistake.
If we know anything about the Giants, they'll take a quarterback, but it won't be like anybody that anybody had on their board. Exactly like they did with Daniel Jones. Like they're gonna pull like a name out of a hat, and there's their new quarterback. But
even then,
be like, who's supposed to go in the 3rd round? But actually kind of did a little bit better than we expected.
Right.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, let's say a lot of fun talking football this week. We got a lot of great games next week too. Did we want to do the? Do we want to do over-unders and?
Yeah, the picks.
Yeah.
We can go. Yeah, we can definitely do that. I mean, obviously, I didn't get a chance to do the graphic and everything, so I'll just give you guys the lines. Well, I will say for last week, Dylan, you went 3-3 because you got your Chiefs pick right, Niners pick, and your Steelers pick, like you said. Those 3 you got right. Missed the Packers, Rams, and the Texans. Texans one was brutal because the line was 2.5. Texans only won by 2.
I forgot we go by the lines.
Yeah, the half kills you all the time. I went 4-2 last week. I got the Eagles, Lions, Niners, and the Bucks, and I missed the Ravens and the Titans.
Hey, Kyle redemption year.
Hey, man, last year it could not get any worse. So we'll see, though. We'll see how week 2 can go. Yeah, so we'll do the same thing as last week. The primetime games, then lock and underdog pick. So let me go ahead and pull these up.
Well, the first game is Buffalo. I'm not sure if the lines are different per app, but I'm looking at it on PFF. And the first game is Bills Dolphins Thursday night. Miami's a 2.5-point favorite. Not sure if the line's different elsewhere.
No, that's the line I have. That's right. Yep, 2.5. Yeah, so Dolphins -2.5 at home. versus the Bills. Bills coming off their comeback win over the Cardinals. Dolphins come off a comeback win over the Jags as well. So, I mean, let's start with you, Guardy 3. Who do you have in that one?
I'm not the biggest Dolphins fan, but I'll take the Dolphins, and I think they cover. I mean, the fact they both had come from behind victories, but the Bills having to come back against the Cardinals is pretty alarming to me. And I know that the Dolphins had to come back against Jacksonville, but I think Jacksonville is just also an insanely better team than the Arizona Cardinals. So I'm going to go Dolphins, and I think they cover.
Okay.
I say they win by a touchdown.
Man, all I need is Buffalo to win, and I'd get it correctly. I would trust on Buffalo in a primetime game, even though it's Thursday, and that's probably the worst of the primetime games you can play. Man, Josh Allen in primetime, big game. We've always seen the Bills play and do well in these type of situations. Yeah, give me Josh Allen.
All right. I'm going to go Bills as well. I feel like, I mean, it is early in the season. It is in Miami, so you feel like they'll play well. I was a little bit encouraged by, Buffalo. Like once they started going really well, they used Cook a little bit. I mean, Josh Allen got back to running, which I do think was something they tried to take away from him last season, and we kind of saw him make some crazy decisions in terms of passes and the interceptions. I feel like him running the ball makes him a better quarterback. So I feel like we'll see a little bit more of that, especially on a short week. So I'll take the Bills in the plus 2.5 as well. So then we got Sunday night is
Bears Texans, and mine says 6.5.
Yep, I got 6.5 as well. So you got Texans minus 6.5 at home facing the Bears. Bears coming off of the win over the Titans, where, like you said, Caleb Williams didn't look great, but the defense and the special teams saved them. And the Texans come off the win over the Colts, where I feel like the Texans started a little bit slow as well, but they got it going. And Joe Mixon gives them a really good element in the running game. So once again, Brett, how do you see this one playing out?
I'll take the Texans, and I think they win pretty comfortably. Give me the Texans by 10. Okay. I'm a firm believer in the Texans, and I just think at this point, I think the difference is going to be experience. I believe that Caleb Williams will bounce back, but I just think that CJ Stroud will just be that much better than him, and that's not a slight against Caleb Williams. It's just year 2 CJ Stroud is going to be better than game 2 Caleb Williams. So give me the Texans. Give me the Texans by 10. I think they cover.
All right. Dylan?
So I'm taking the Texans, but I don't think they will cover. I do think the Texans will win the game, but I don't think they will cover the spread. Man, this is going to be a tougher Bears. I think defense than what you get out of the Colts. But, man, what's going to lack for the Bears, it might just Caleb, they might have to rush a little bit more. Like they have to rely on DeAndre Swift, who is in a bad back, which is probably a bad game. I think Caleb Williams might settle in a little more comfortable. I don't think we're going to see him get 93 yards. I feel like even if we see him throw for a touchdown, that's more than what he did last week. We could see him go out there, throw, 20 for 27, 173 and a touchdown. Feel like that's close enough to get into that 6.5, leave it close. The Texans did struggle a little bit slow starting. As long as the Bears can kind of, recuperate off that, kind of make a little bit something out of that, take a little bit of a Texans approach. Texans could still win the game, and maybe it has to be a comeback. Maybe it's just a back and forth battle. Maybe it's a low scoring game, but I do think the Bears keep it close.
Okay. Interesting. I think I'm going to go with Brett on this one. I'll take the Texans in the 6.5. I do agree. I think we'll see a little bit better Caleb Williams, but I just feel like with the way Joe Mixon played last week, like that's going to factor in a big part in this week's game. That will give them a lot of balance, which then frees up CJ Stroud in the passing game. And, Stephon Diggs, had a pretty good showing against Indy. I feel like we'll see a lot more of that along with Collins as well. So, yeah, I'll take the Texans, but the Bears' offense looks better. I mean, defense and special teams, like that you feel like that's going to travel with them week to week. But you need to see more from the offense before I probably feel confident in them in terms of picking them against some of these lines. I mean, 6.5 is a big number. Don't get me wrong, but I'll take the Texans. All right. Monday night, got Falcons, Eagles. Similar line. 6.5 point favorites are the Eagles at home against the traveling Falcons, who just lost to Justin Fields. We'll have to see, will he start? Well, I mean, Justin Fields if he starts again, but they now have to deal with another mobile type quarterback in Jalen Hurts. Did they learn anything from going against Justin Fields? I don't know. Can Kirk Cousins bounce back on the road? Hostile environment. You already know Philadelphia on a Monday night. Like, they're going to be ready to go. The Eagles coming off of the win over the Packers in Brazil. How do they keep their season going? So, Brett, how do you see this one playing out?
Again, I'll take the Eagles covering this one. I watched TJ Watt pretty much single-handedly wreck the Falcons' entire game plan last week. I don't think the Eagles have TJ Watt, but I do think they have 3-4 just bad men on that defensive line that can absolutely wreck a game plan. So
the whole Georgia defensive line.
I think what it comes down to is I think the Eagles just completely dominate and overwhelm the Falcons at the line of scrimmage, and I think they cover the spread.
Yeah, not to harp too much on it. Good Bijan game, bad Falcons game. I think Bijan is loving this whole Falcons offense. Nobody else is, which is fine. I mean, if you're a Bijan fantasy holder, you love it as well too. But overall, I think the Eagles win it. I feel like they're just a way better team. There's not something clicking with the Falcons, either if it's Kirk Cousins or whatever. It's sad to see it given, nothing's been clicking with the Falcons, and they just have so many good pieces that you wish you could just find someone to throw in there. Give me the Eagles. They'll win pretty comfortably. They played the Packers, who I think at that point in time were probably better than the Eagles that night, just given the circumstances didn't play out well. Still, I think the Packers are one of the better teams in the NFC. So, I mean, I don't feel like the Falcons are going to be anything, especially at home now too. Be way easier for them.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree with the both of you. Like, the Eagles, I think get it done pretty easily. Until I see Kirk Cousins comfortable in the pocket, I feel like they're going to struggle. And like I said, the Falcons' early schedule is going to be tough. So even if they can't get it done here against the Eagles, I think they have another tough game next week. The season of promise for Atlanta could slowly start turning pretty ugly here. They
got the Chiefs next week.
Yeah, so they need a good showing. If not Monday, then Kansas City almost becomes like a must type of win for the aspirations that this team has going forward. I don't know if I trust them to beat Kansas City. So
trap game.
I don't know. We'll see. We will see. I mean, it may help them, if depending on who the Eagles have next week. If the Eagles are looking past Atlanta, maybe that helps them out. But
they have the Saints, so not really.
Yeah, and the Eagles, they have something to prove this year as well. So I feel like they're gonna show Monday night that they're back to being the team that we think they are, while the Falcons will just have another week of struggles. All right.
Lock and upset.
Yep. So I will say, just to let you guys know, those listening or watching, if you do follow Integrity Sports Network, I will post our picks on a little bit after the show. That way, people can keep track of everything. So I think I could share this screen here. That way you can guys see the other lines and pick from them. I will read some of them as well, but give you a visual. Let's see how this turns out on here. All right.
Okay.
So games to choose from. I don't know because that small.
A little, but it's at least the lines are readable, from my opinion.
Okay. So you got Cowboys -6.5 over the Saints. You also have the Lions as a 7-point favorite over the Bucks. Jags are a 3.5-point favorite over the Browns. Vikings are 6.5-point dog against the Niners. So I'm giving you just the home team line. The Panthers 6.5-point dog against the Chargers. The Ravens are a 9.5-point favorite against the Raiders. Patriots open as a 3.5-point dog against the Seahawks. The Packers 3.5-point dog against the Colts. Titans are a 3.5-point dog against the Jets. Commanders are a 1.5 favorite over the Giants.
That's wild.
Cardinals
I feel like
point and a half
just give 'em the
favorite over the
three.
Rams. That's an interesting one. 1.5 over the Rams for the Cardinals.
You play Josh
Chiefs,
Allen hard, you
5.5
get
point
it.
favorite over the Bengals. What would you say?
I said they play Josh Allen hard in the Bills. Whatever, man. It's a home game. Give Arizona a chance.
Yeah. And Broncos 3-point dogs against the Steelers, and the Texans are a 6.5-point favorite against the Bears.
Okay, so I'll start off with my upset just because I want to get that out of the way and I don't want anyone to steal it. I don't think they will, but give me the Bucks over the Lions. I want it so bad. I just feel like the Bucks have some good momentum. The Lions had to play a tough game, maybe not just be on all cylinders. Give me the Bucks, man. They're rolling. I'm not saying that the Bucks are a better team or will be a better team in the NFC. Just with how things are right now, Baker Mayfield's on a hot streak, and when Baker Mayfield's hot, he tends to stay hot before he gets really cold. So, man, give me one more week of it. I'm fine with it. I want it. I'm happy. I'm enjoying it. Give me the Bucks over the Lions, and that will be my upset.
I like it. All right. So, I mean, who's your lock, or I guess your favorite? Which favorite do you have covering?
I'm going to go Jaguars-Browns. I feel like the Jaguars were put into a situation being in an away game and having a team come back is just the worst situation because momentum will never be on your side regardless of what you do. If you're a home team and a team tries to come back, the moment you do something, you could have the crowd inject a little bit of something, kind of give you some hope. When you're losing a comeback on an away game, man, it just sucks. You feel like Jacksonville, the Browns didn't look great at all, had their own struggles. I feel like the Browns might play decent, but being a 3.5-point favorite, I could see Jacksonville winning by 7, 10, 11. We just saw Cowboys do it by like 24 last week. Yeah, man. I'm completely fine with Jacksonville winning by 10, 7, 6, 5. 3.5 is something that makes me comfortable. Give me Jacksonville over Cleveland.
Okay. I will say when I was reading them, like the Bucks Lions one was one I definitely thought about. So I think that's a good pick by you there.
Baker, I'm all for Baker Mania. I want him to win. Give him the MVP. Give him the MVP. I want that would be on my bingo card. Imagine people who bet on that at the start of the season.
I mean, you would make a good amount off of that one.
You would make your kids would be fine.
Right.
My upset, you know what? I'm just gonna ride it out with my own team. Give me the Packers over the Colts.
Yeah.
Packers bounce back, and I know we just said the Packers are one of the better teams in the NFC, so it doesn't sound like much of an upset. But when we're staring down the barrel of Malik Willis starting at quarterback, who is pretty terrible, like I'm not sure how much of a talent upgrade it is over our other bad backup quarterbacks like fucking Seneca Wallace and so not Tyler only was that one, but overall, I think we're going to see just how great of a coach Matt LaFleur is here, and I think the Packers still find a way to get it done with Malik Willis.
One thing I like about Malik Willis, like this matchup, is if there's any team Malik Willis knows, it's the Colts, it's the Jaguars, it's the Texans. Even not being as a specific player, just sitting in meetings, scouting, things like that. He hears these teams come up 2 times a year for the 2 years he's been a player. Man, if there's teams he knows, it's the Colts, it's the Texans, and it's the Jaguars, and of course maybe the Titans. But right now, I feel like that's one of the better matchups you could give him. And I'm completely fine with it. And it's not like you have to rely on him too much. You still have Josh Jacobs there. I mean, make him worth that contract. You paid him a little bit, get a little bit out of him, at least for this week, till Jordan Love can come back. And then I like it.
Yeah, I was about to say, they can literally look at what the Patriots did against the Bengals, run the ball, long drives that eat a lot of clock. Like they could do that with Josh Jacobs. So and
They
just
just
make
need
it
to tell
easy on
Malik
Malik
Willis
Willis.
not to play hero ball. It's like, man, we
Yeah.
have this isn't Tennessee. No offense to Tennessee, but this isn't Tennessee, man. We don't need you to go out and make a play. We have stuff that works for it. Like we have stuff that will make plays. We don't need you to go out and make it. Go let Jaden Reed make the play because obviously you saw last week he could do it. Got Josh Jacobs, let him make the play. Got Christian Watson, let him make the play. Like you have so many options, dude. Malik Willis, you don't need to be the one to be the star of it. And I feel like if he can get a little bit more in that mindset, that would be cool. But it feels like he's trying to make the most noise, the most action, and it's like that works. Like if you're Lamar Jackson, but that's about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And for my lock, give me the Steelers covering against the Broncos. I think they have more than enough to shut down the run. And if the Broncos try to pass 35, 40 times against the Steelers pass rush, Bo Nix, he's just going to be dead. I don't know what else to say, but he's just done. And the Steelers offense, I don't think it's an impressive offense, but I think there's enough there to get the job done, and I think they have more than enough to take out the Broncos next week. So
even if Justin Fields starts, I agree. It's just so wild to think an offensive George Pickens, who's an amazing receiver, Dwayne Washington, who's literally 6'8", and you got two good running backs like Najee Harris and Jalen Warren. Man, why aren't you good?
Man, Pat Freiermuth is huge. Like, are we sure the Steelers shouldn't just be spamming Hail Mary over and over again?
Exactly. Like, I'm sorry, Dwayne. Like personally, I play a lot of Madden. Dwayne Washington's my favorite. One of my favorite players to use because he's 6'8", 240. Like, who's taking that man down?
I was playing some Madden earlier and smoking people with Jade Reed. Ironically, I was playing the Seahawks, and I had to snap it if I ever got in trouble. It's like, well, he's out there somewhere, and he always found a way to get open.
Yeah, I mean, look, I've been having fun playing Madden too. I can actually play with the Patriots. How about that?
Look at that.
All right, so I actually have two picks that neither of you have taken, so that's obviously going to make it a good week. So my upset, I'm gonna go Titans plus 3.5 against the Jets. I saw a Titans defense that didn't need to blitz to get pressure on, Caleb Williams. Their front four dominated that. We just saw a Jets team struggle against a Niners defense, which obviously I'm not comparing the Titans to the Niners defense, but I think there's some serious questions with that Jets O-line, even though they felt like they upgraded it by bringing in some old guys to, try to patch it. So I would not be surprised if, Simmons and T'Vondre Sweat, the young guy, wreck some things for the Jets and make it uncomfortable for them. And I think what the Titans also showed is that they can run the ball with Tony Pollard, Tyjae Spears. The Jets just struggled against the run. Why not test them again? So I'll take the Titans in plus 3.5. I'm gonna go with the Commanders to beat the Giants. I know it's only 1.5, but I feel like I don't know. I think Jaden Daniels can do some things against that Giants team. I feel like this Giants team, especially every game that Daniel Jones starts, the confidence level of everybody else around him will shrink by the week. And you're going to start seeing probably some of these guys on defense let their play slip a little because of Daniel Jones just sucking the energy out of that locker room. And I think the Commanders, with Jaden Daniels' ability to run as well as throw the ball a little bit, I think he'll pose some problems for them, and I'll take the Commanders and the 1.5. Like, why not?
Yeah, that's Titans and Jets will be interesting for sure.
Yeah.
I think the Titans can get the right amount of pressure, right up the middle on Rodgers, make him really uncomfortable. I think it just comes down to how much do you trust Levis to, not turn the ball over, just kind of like he did last week. But thankfully, The Jets' pass rush looked really anemic last week, so that bodes in their favor.
And why wouldn't this be the game where Levis actually, looks comfortable and finds open receivers? Because I don't know, I just got a feeling about it.
I feel like you're not wrong, Mo. Like a pass rush with me, Dylan, Mo, and Kyle would probably get a couple sacks versus the Giants, or at least force a Daniel Jones turnover.
Yep.
Man, I just have to yell, and he's pressured enough.
I mean, the good thing for them is that game is not in New York. That might be the best news for them.
Yeah, dude, he probably loves away games right now.
Yeah. Like that Giants
I can
crowd
go
is just
play
going
in
to be
Jackson.
brutal.
It's like I can play in Jacksonville. He's like, oh man, that beats New York. It's like, oh, play in Washington. It's not too far away.
Yeah.
Beats the New York fans telling me. It's like they're gonna just tell me I suck just because I'm a Giants fan. They're not gonna tell me I'm suck, and they're a fan of the team.
All right. So I guess it's the repeat for those of you. Brett's picks have the Dolphins -2.5, the Texans -6.5, the Eagles -6.5. Your upset Packers your underdog pick, Packers +3.5, and then your favorite Steelers -3. Dylan's got the Bills +2.5, the Bears +6.5, Eagles -6.5. Your underdog is the Bucks +7. Go Baker. And your lock, Jags -3.5. I have the Bills +2.5, Texans -6.5, Eagles -6.5. My underdog, Titans +3.5, and then lock, Commanders -1.5. So, like I said, after the show, I'll put a post on our page so you guys can see them and keep track of them. I'll have last week's results as well. But yeah, so just week 2. Season's already getting kicked off. Like you said, Brett, I've already gotten a better start this week than this season and last year. Like last year, it was comically just hilarious each and every week, just seeing how many games I picked wrong. So we'll see if week 2 is kind to me. But yeah, I mean, those are our picks. Let me take this down.
Fair enough. Do you guys have any other topics or anything you want to add before we get up on out of here?
I mean, not really. I mean, college football's been chilling fine. Doesn't seem like we've had anything big outside of there, happen. Notre Dame got upset outside of that. That's crazy. Shout out to Northern Illinois, getting their first top 25 win in program history. Not just ever, program history, not this season, program history. That's crazy to believe. Shout out to them. And it was a top 5 win, let alone, too.
Yeah.
My favorite part about that is the fact that they hadn't won a game in 2 years. They hadn't won a game, I think it was since 2022, and then just out of nowhere, just beat up on Notre Dame. They were beating them by 3. Yeah. That was hilarious.
Mm-hmm. I also didn't like the Freeman talking after the game, his team got caught up in the playoff talk. It's week 2. How is that already
what playoff talk? What playoff talk, man? Will Notre Dame? Man, why isn't Notre Dame a part of the conference? I don't feel where are they an at-large at? They lost to Northern Illinois. That's their big game. They beat Texas A&M. I don't care. Texas A&M's unranked.
I don't even know what Notre Dame would have to do to get back into playoff talk after losing to Northern Illinois.
Sadly, just being Notre Dame already gives them an instant bid. Yeah, being Notre Dame just gives you an instant bid, even though you're going to play nobody good. They're going to beat, no offense, Kyle, but they're going to beat Boston College, and Boston College is going to be 9-3, and they're going to be that's our big win of the season.
You're talking about number 24 ranked BC, okay? That's no easy. That's no easy feat. Actually, I don't even think they play this year.
Northern Illinois.
Oddly enough, they don't play this year.
Yeah, I could also see Coach Prime being his last season with the Buffaloes.
Especially,
I mean, that's something that is something that needs to be talked about, though. All of this noise that he and his son, and during that Nebraska game, they kept cutting to these pre-recorded interviews where they're "Oh, Nebraska's not ready for us. We're gonna give it to them. We're gonna do this. We're gonna do that." And then you're watching the game happen, and it's like, you guys couldn't stay on the field against them. They bullied you. They knocked Shedeur around. Like, they did whatever they wanted. And it's just like every week is going to be the same thing. Next week, whoever they're playing against, I'm sure Dion will say, like, oh, we're going to get them with, like, we're going to beat them our speed and all this kind of stuff. It's like, until you start beating some of these teams, stop talking. Like, just don't do it. Because you're just making it easy for those fans who don't like Dion necessarily or don't like the Shedeur hype or whatever. It's very easy for them to be the loudest ones in the room. Like Travis Hunter, great player. Never hear from him. But we're hearing from Dion and Shedeur all the time. And it's just like, beat somebody of credit. Like, you beat North Dakota State week 1. You probably should have lost that game. Like, let's be real about it. And I just don't get it with what's Colorado's end game here? Like, you sitting here, you getting like 60 guys in the transfer portal. Did you not manage to get 5 of them to play the offensive line? Did you not get a running back in any of that? Like, I don't understand this. All these guys want to play for him, but you can't get an offensive line. And their defensive line didn't even put pressure on Raiola. I think I pronounced his last name either. It's like, where did all these transfers go? And name a wide receiver outside of Travis Hunter that does anything.
Sure.
Name somebody in the secondary other than Travis Hunter that does anything.
Yeah, you have Jimmy Horn Jr., who's supposed to be this great prospect, but it seems like they'd rather just get to Travis Hunter every time.
Yeah, so I don't get it.
No, I definitely don't understand what's going on over there either, and hopefully they can turn it around. Otherwise, it's going to be some really interesting conversations after the year, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Definitely thank you, everybody, for tuning into today's show. If you want more content, we'll be back next week, 6 p.m. Central. I don't know where that is for you guys, but overall, we'll be back next Tuesday and the Tuesday after that and the Tuesday after that. So thank you for supporting us, and I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your night.